Hi, my name is Ann Varkadas. I taught at Truman from 1977 to 1993. Today, we are taking time to take a look at history of Truman Elementary School and how it served the community for decades. In June of 1968, Vancouver Public School Superintendent Robert Bates got the ball rolling on the construction of Harry S. Truman Elementary School to keep up with an expanding student population. The community passed a bond measure to build Truman, King, and Eisenhower elementaries. The building design was open with a media center at the hub. After bids came in, Larry Collins' company won the right to build Truman for a total cost of $976,461. Selecting the staff was an important and arduous process, as was parent outreach. Dwayne Abels was Truman's first principal, and Ed and Luann Barnes were co-presidents of the school's PTA. The opening was a little rough. A construction error resulted in beams falling into the media center during construction, and the building wasn't ready for the planned opening in September 1970. Walnut Grove pitched in with classrooms and its gymnasium to house Truman's students. What was supposed to be a 2-week temporary situation stretched out to 8 weeks. Finally, on October 22, 1970, most of the students and staff moved into the partially completed building. In January 1971, all of the students and staff moved over.
The beginning of school was very chaotic because it didn't open when it was supposed to. So we were into this team building effort. So we were determined to be a team. So we started school at Walnut Grove, 4 classrooms in the gym. And it was quite chaotic, actually. Then we moved over to the primary building before the rest of the other people from the school moved in. So it was very chaotic, actually, at first. We didn't have a phone and all those things that people just carry around in their hand now. We got by, though. And we had many parent helpers that came in, and I think one of them came in just so that was acting like a healthy mother, etc., because of our lack of facilities.
A couple of months later came the official dedication, attended by local dignitaries, families, staff, and students. An invitation went out to the building's namesake, former President Harry S. Truman, but he politely declined. In a Western Union Telegraph, President Truman expressed his hope that all of the students who attended Truman Elementary would take advantage of the opportunities that education would provide them and grow up to be good citizens. That ethos has been present in Truman ever since.
The day of the tornado was very dramatic. The sky was black as could be, of course, and we could hear sirens forever. And then the following week, we had students from Peter S. Ogden move in with us, and they assimilated quite well, really. I think we had an extra classroom space where we were working, and I felt like it was a smooth move, but it was a shock having so many, all of a sudden, many students. I'm sure there were many adjustments to be made. Robin Bunce. I worked at Truman from 1971 till 2006. 35 years, I think that, and was a highlight of my teaching career because it was my teaching career.
My name's Ann Varkatis. I taught at Truman from 1977 to 1993. I taught 3rd and 4th grade, and we had a blast. We had the best students, we had the best teachers, and the best PTA. It was a total school community. I'm going to turn it over to Marcy, who has more to share.
I'm Marcy Ramberg. I was Miss Opal at that time, Marcy Opal, and Ann was my teammate in 4th grade. I got hired in October of 1981 for overload. Thought I'd only be there a year, and 16 years later, I'd taught 4th grade, 3rd grade, 2nd grade, 6th grade, and 5th grade. And my dear friends that are a part of this today, I met them when I came to Truman. Let's turn it over to Carla.
Hi, I'm Carla Slosher, and I taught at Truman from 1979, right when I got out of college, to 1988. And I feel like as a new teacher, I learned so much by my colleagues, and we had a wonderful time. To this day, I've remained friends with many of my former colleagues, parents, and students. And I'm really looking forward to seeing everyone in the new building sometime in the near future. I'd like to turn it over to Heather.
I'm Heather Van Dyne, and I taught at Truman from, I have to even look, 1992 until 2017. Learning support teacher, so I had all the kids that, kindergarten through 5th. It was my 2nd position in the Vancouver School District and my final one. And it was the best part about Truman to me is the big family that we have. So let's see, Tracy.
Hi, I'm Tracy Mar, and I've been at Truman since 1999. I taught one other year at Walnut Grove before I came to Truman, and so I've been there for many years. I've taught 1st to 4th, and just piggybacking on what everybody else said, it's the family at Truman that has been the best part of being there. And I will turn it over to Teresa.
I'm Teresa David Turner, the current principal at Truman. I started my principalship at Truman in 2010, so have finished my 10th year. And what a place it is. Both the place we're leaving and the place we're going to is just filled with promise. And I'll turn it over to Chris.
Hi, I'm Chris Owings. I came to Truman in September of 2000. So I've been there 20 years. The first 10, I taught regular 4th grade and a little bit of 3rd and a little bit of 5th, and then moved to the high cap program for the last 10 years. It's a very special school. I started as a parent volunteer, then a substitute teacher, and then Miss Claudia Bratt roped me into applying, but it's been a great 20 years. Here's Lindy.
Hi, I'm Lindy Rhodes, and I have a long history with Truman. I started as a substitute teacher, and I subbed for Carla and for Marcy and for Ann Varkatis in the early 1980s, long time ago. I also was a parent. I have 2 of my children that went through Truman, so I had that through the 80s. And then I was a teacher at Truman from 1991 until 2014. And during that time, I taught 1st and 2nd grade challenge students, high cap students. The best part about Truman, well, I can't say it's the best, but it's one of the very favorite things, open concept. You had more than one teacher. The kids had more than one adult to visit with. It was absolutely wonderful. The family of students and teachers and staff assistants and bus drivers and custodians, what a great atmosphere for children. So it's going to be sad to see it go, but exciting to see the new happening. So, Anne, back to you.
Lindy touched on what made Truman special. Could others add to her comments about what made Truman special to you in your career?
You know, I would love to talk about that. And to me, the kids and the families were so amazing. And at that time, we didn't have a lot of transiency. And so a lot of the kids, like I had so many of my students as second graders. And then when I moved up to sixth grade, I had them again. And just to get to know those families and those kids and to see them now as adults, because I'm still in touch with a lot of them, and what great people they were then and what great adults they've grown up to be. So to me, the families and the community at Truman was the best part of working there. And of course the staff that were my friends, but I mean, those kids, amazing.
I agree. I taught sixth grade while I was there, and absolutely the families, and there was a true sense of pride for the community. People would meet me and say, "Oh, you teach at Truman," because that really was the place to be. And we had lots and lots of family support. Parents were there all of the time. And also that, you're right, Lindy, that open concept, it was amazing. For someone just coming out of college to begin my career, I had mentors every single day. I could watch what my colleagues were doing. I could model after some great teaching that I saw. And it truly was a sense of everyone's helping you be successful. And I think we talk about owning kids, all of us having responsibility for all kids in today's setting. And that was very true at Truman. You, as a sixth grade teacher, I knew that my kids' family members and their siblings throughout the school, and it was everybody working together for the students.
Well, let's move on to our former students. And I know it's difficult because we've had so many former students. I don't want to leave anyone out, but would anyone like to share a special story about where our students have grown and where they're at professionally and personally?
35, 40 years later, I went to help my daughter enroll my granddaughter in a preschool. And sure enough, there was the supervisor and the coordinator of a preschool in town saw us walk in and said, "Truman Pride." And we've got this for your granddaughter. And it made me really proud to see this individual take the skills that she learned at Truman and throughout the Vancouver School District and contribute to the beginning of kids' lives as a preschool coordinator.
One of my more memorable students is a superintendent now in a Clark County school district. I'm very proud of him. And another student is a principal at a school in Clark County, along with many others who are teachers. And it makes me quite proud to see others who have joined our occupation and have gone on to work with kids.
I just received a notification of one of my former students' graduation from Jesuit High School. And she was telling in the note, she was saying how important Truman was in her early years as a first and second grader and all the way through fifth grade. And now she's off to Notre Dame. So she's doing quite well. And it just warmed my heart to know that we were all so influential in her younger years and that they actually remember elementary school teachers. So that's one of the many students that have done things.
One of my favorite stories was a former student was my grandson started back to school after being homeschooled, and his math teacher recognized his last name and is his math teacher, and he was quite the screw-off in elementary school, and it was so fun to see that he's grown up to be a great math teacher.
Truman was open concept. There were some pros and cons. Could you share some memories about being open concept school?
When I first came there, and of course school had already started because it was in October, and I was just kind of freaked out because it's like, oh my God, everybody's going to be watching me. What if I make a mistake? Because I was a new teacher. And like Carla had said, it was just the opposite. Everybody was there to support you. You could watch all these amazing teachers. But the thing that stands out to me over the 16 years that I was there was that everybody was so respectful. We all tried to do quiet activities at the same time so that we weren't disrupting each other. There was a real sense that it was like, it wasn't about you, it was about the team and the school as a whole. And it was what is best for the whole and not just you. And so I just remember times where, you know, you were wanting to do something loud, and as long as you kind of talk to people, okay, great, we can do this. But people were so thoughtful about making sure that they weren't disrupting other classrooms. And people would walk in, I remember, and just think, oh, how did you do this? But to me, it was very weird to then go to a school, because I went to Philida after that. And it was so weird to be in a room with walls, because I was just used to the openness. So I personally just loved it. And I felt, again, that it was like, it wasn't just, these are my kids. It was like, these are our kids. And we really took responsibility, and nobody felt like, you know, those are your kids, these are my kids. It was just, the whole school is like, these are our kids. And I think the students sense that as well.
The part that I really think is amazing is I've had an opportunity working in planning to work with Teresa and the staff as they get ready to open a new building. And what I find amazing is those same traits that made Truman so special in the late 70s and 80s, I see happening today at Truman. There's a culture around building relationships with kids, believing in students' best attributes and gifts, setting high standards for learning. And probably what I noticed the most about the current Truman is they have very high standards for behavior. Kids know what is expected. They buy into the system that they're using. And that was the beauty of Truman when I worked there many, many years ago, that the kids, we had a management system where kids got a button, the purple T and the TSM, and kids just absolutely loved that. They wanted to do the right thing. They wanted to learn, and the standard was set by the administrators that we work for, and I see the same happening with Teresa today. So it's going to be an exciting opportunity for students to enter their new building, and I know the culture will just continue to get better and better.
Well, I have a little story just to talk about how close this staff has always been, and I always think about this. So, and Robin's part of this story because it was hilarious, of course. So when I first came, right, it was for overload, and so I was a 3-4 split. And so at the end of the year, numbers had changed, and they said, look, we're going to lose a teacher. It's going to be Marcy because she's the least seniority. Is there anybody who would like to be excess so she could stay? You know, somebody who's ready to. Well, of course, nobody wanted to leave, but bless Ann Varkatis, she offered to go to Peter S. Ogden because they had a new program, I can't remember, ECRI program. Anyway, she offered to do that basically to save my job. So then the next year, and so of course the staff had, when they thought I was leaving, had brought me gifts, right? And then I didn't have to go. Then the next year, it's like, we're going to lose a teacher again. It's going to be Marcy. Is anybody willing to, anybody that wants to leave. No, nobody ever wanted to leave Truman. It was such an awesome place. But then one of the teachers became a principal, so he left. So again, I got my gifts, and then, I got to stay. So then the third year it happened again. Seriously, the third year it happened again, and there was a first grade teacher who ended up going into the service, a gal. And by that time, again, they were going, and Robin said, "That's it. No more presents. Okay, you keep staying, you keep buying your stuff." Anyway, but point of story is that usually on every staff, there's people who are ready to move on to other schools, and it doesn't mean they don't like where they are. But it was just that thing where it was like, it was such a gift. I was so blessed that I actually got hired. It was just a kind of a fluke because of it was all, the year had already started, and everybody wanted to come to Truman and nobody wanted to leave Truman. And I believe it's the same now. I mean, it's just an awesome place to be. So just want to throw that in there.
When I got hired, I came and got interviewed and got a job at Truman, and I thought, oh, no walls, I'm staying 1 year. I'm out of here in 1 year. And now I've been there 21.
Of course, Truman Elementary continues its mission to prepare kids for success. It's going to happen in a new building, currently under construction. The new building sits right next to the old site with all of the modern touches you'd expect in a 21st century school. Thanks to voters, our kids will be learning in the state-of-the-art school. I'd like to ask, how excited are you to have this new building for students?
Okay, I can jump in on that one. And I want to segue a little bit too back to the whole, that high degree of collaboration remained intact with the old building because we still didn't have any walls. I think the desire to have more wall structure was pretty strong in our design, but it's interesting to see how as we came closer and closer to really designing the new space, what we realized is we didn't want to lose that sense of eyes on each other and being able to see and feel collaborative all day and just really just have a visual on each other during the day. So the new design reflects that in having large openings to the classrooms that are like sliding glass doors, and as much as possible, the ability to see each other during the day. So we recognize that built a collaborative school community that we really felt strongly about carrying over into the new building, and it's beautiful.
I want to see it.
A lot of you talk about Truman Pride because that's been a kind of a theme, I think, from the beginning. And that's what I'm really excited to see in the new building, a new and fresh sense of Truman Pride, because I really think it will be a great time to really push that again. It was great then.
I know when we first started, we did a lot of team building activities and that type of thing, and to build pride in our school. At that time when we first started, we spent many meetings with the staff, team building, and that was very helpful. I think that made a big difference.
I think we still do that now because Teresa still does that with us. We do a lot of team building, and our expectations with our kids are to do, a lot of team building because that helps build your community in your classroom and your community with your grade level, and then ultimately the whole school community. So, hopefully team building will still be always something that we will be doing.
Well, and the difference between us is we're already a unified group moving into the new space, that people in our current staff, Chris being one, actually participated in the design of the new building. So yeah, for sure we're going to do some team building, but we're not starting from scratch with the staff, which is different from the original Truman. Was that 50 years ago then? 40, 50? Yeah.
Really made a big difference. Once the school got bigger and bigger and bigger, open concept was more difficult the more crowded it is, but I think it'll work with your glass dividers that you have.
The new school is going to meet all of the Truman needs. I'm so excited. And I'm really excited to see the kindergartners having some active time inside of their studio space. That's just going to be wonderful. And I think that the kids will feel proud of their new space. I think parents will feel that the district really honors students and families by offering this beautiful building with such amazing teachers and staff. So I'm looking forward to seeing the teachers in action when we come back to school in the fall.
I'd like everyone to take a moment and think of something that has stayed with them that's on the humorous side and share it with us today.
I remember, and this was like my first year of teaching, but project-based learning is really exciting right now for kids. Well, we did project-based learning. And at the end of the year, my teammates thought that we would have a cookout out on the playground. And we made these things called buddy burners. And the kids brought coffee cans and they would light a fire underneath the coffee can and they cooked their lunch. Well, of course, that also was the same time that parachute pants made of nylon were right in style. And I had one of my kids, of course, catch his pants on fire. And so I think that was the last year we did buddy burners at Truman Elementary.
One of my favorite funny stories, well, I have two. I'm going to tell both because they're both quick. One didn't start out funny. We had a bomb threat. Anne will remember this. We had a bomb threat and we all had to leave the building. And the administrator was gone that day. So Anne was the acting administrator. And she had to go into the building with the firefighter. And as they're walking through checking cupboards, he finds her cupboard full of snacks. And he was like, hey, what you got here? That was one of my funny stories. Then the second one has to do with staff. And that was when we used to, for teacher evaluations, we call them, you had informal observations and formal observations. And so there were a group of fourth grade teachers and the principal was going to do her formal observations. So they all showed up in bridesmaids dresses for their formal observations. And that just showed you what a good, I mean, it was fun. We had fun.
I remember a particular time I went to school on Monday morning and I opened my desk drawer and either Phyllis Hall or Daryl Brandenburg had packed my desk full of unpopped popcorn kernels, and neither one would ever admit to it that they had done it. But Daryl would do informal observations, and he'd come into the room, and it just really, honestly, happened to be the time that it would be our time to get up and go to recess, go to music, go somewhere, and he swore that I was doing it on purpose every time he came in to observe me. I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny.
We had a wonderful librarian who's retired since, and she would come to staff meetings and do her makeup while she was at the staff meeting because they were bright and early in the morning. And so when she retired, the very last time we had a staff meeting, everybody brought their makeup and set their makeup up on the table, and everyone was doing their makeup while we were having the staff meeting in honor of her.
My funny story, we used to have the patron tour monthly at Truman. And they used to come through our fourth grade and I would demonstrate handwriting instruction. The kids would be working and then the other teachers would monitor the students working. Well, one of my colleagues would wear high heels, but she wouldn't wear them for the whole patrons tour, but she'd wear them when the company were there. And she swore I threw her high heels away. And she had the custodian go through the garbage. She had us going through everything. Well, they found them in her drawer. It was just hilarious because she was worried about her high heels. But we always dressed up for the patron tour. We put on our best and our kids were always shining stars.
I don't remember if it was the year that the mountain blew, but we had an earthquake and we got to practice, get under the desks, hold onto the legs of the tables. And I had tables, I didn't have desks in my room. And the kids got under, and it was a rolling thing. And we rolled, and it kind of made me a little queasy. And we got done, and everything settled down. And we knew it was time to go out to the playground or wherever we were supposed to go. And one of my kids sat up, big blue eyes, sat up and looked at me and went, "Can we do that again?" I was like, that wasn't us. That was Mother Nature. Stuck with me.
I used to have, I'm not very good at doing school pets, but one year I found a newt. And so I put it in a little cage, and the kids would catch flies and little stuff for it at recess. And it lived a fairly peaceful life for the year. And then summer came, and many of you know I lived right next door to the school, and the newt was not very demanding, didn't need to eat very often. So I left him at school and then promptly forgot about going back to check on him. And I just happened to be moving rooms that year. And when I got to my new room, I found the stiff remains of this newt. And Lindy had written a note, "Did you forget something, Chris?" I don't have class pets anymore.
Okay, I don't know if this is funny, but my first year teaching, there was some sort of prize given out, and one of my students, there was a contest, and he got to be principal for the day. So the principal had to come take his place in my classroom. And so I was teaching the math lesson, and she just kept raising her hand, asking me questions. And it's my first year there. They had the Columbian come interview me about her being in the classroom, and it was just funny. It was fun.
You did a good job.
I was listening to Heather talk about her student, and there's a story about Heather and her student that has stuck with me. And it's not necessarily funny, but it's so totally darling. So she was a learning support teacher while she was there at the last part of her career at Truman. And she had this little guy year after year, because she served K through 5. And as he was leaving our school as a 5th grader, he thanked her for picking him to be her student. And that just has stuck with me. He always felt chosen by Heather Van Dyne to be in her classroom. It was so
Thanks, Teresa.
Truman is such a special place, and I treasure my time there. From all of the current and former staff members at Truman, we can't wait to see what today's students will achieve. Thanks for watching, and go Trailblazers.